This is light work. Let me testify. This gon' be the year that I break every cycle. Let me testify, right hand on the Bible. I was tripping, chasing every empty title. Now I'm locked in.
Trusting God is easy when things are working. It's easy when the prayer gets answered the way you hoped, when the door opens, when the things make sense. But what about when it doesn't? What about when you prayed and the outcome still hurt? Okay. What about when you obeyed and things still fell apart? Because last episode, let me tell y'all, we told the truth about disappointment with God. And if we're honest, some of us didn't walk away from that conversation feeling seen. We felt exposed because it named something that we have been carrying quietly. So now the question becomes, how do you keep trusting God after you have been disappointed? We're not talking about before, but after. That's exactly what we're talking about today.
Welcome to the YesWork podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Dr. Blaire.
I'm Lady B.
And I am Dr. DQ.
And this is a space for women who are serious about aligning their lives, their relationships, their leadership, their identity with God's will. And we're not doing this through perfection because that's not real. It's not a thing. But we are doing it through activation, obedience, and real transformation. That is the Yes Work. If this podcast has been stretching you, if you new here, welcome. Welcome. Stay a little while. If you've been here for a little while and you've been stretched, that cocoa butter. If we've been helping you put language to what you've been feeling, make sure you follow, subscribe, write a comment, share this with someone who's in this same space as you. This episode is going to be for you if you're trying to trust God, but it feels real different now because you've been hurt. You have them lingering feelings. If you still believe, but you're moving a bit more cautiously, if you've experienced disappointment and don't know how to move forward spiritually, stay a little bit, sit down. If you're asking, what does trust even look like now? If you don't want surface level faith anymore, we welcome you. This episode is going to be specifically for you.
All right, so let's get into this, okay? Ladies, what we can no longer ignore is this. After disappointment, trust does not look the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a reality. So when we were talking last week, we named something that many people don't usually say out loud. We talked about loving God and still feeling disappointment. We talked about having faith and still feeling confused. And we talked about believing, but still grieving what didn't happen, right? So a lot of contradictory feelings. And so the tension that we're now sitting in this week that we want to talk about is how we want to trust God, but we don't want to ignore what we've experienced, right? We can't disregard the disappointment, the confusion, the grief that we still experience. We don't want to go back to blind trust. We don't want to perform faith, and we don't want to pretend like we're okay. So this episode, we're going to ask, what does trust look like when it's been stretched? It's stretched, y'all, because it is not looking the same. So we want you to think, have you been trying to go back to the version of trust you had before the disappointment and the grief? Or instead, are you actually going to allow it to evolve?
Well. So I'm excited for this episode. This is one of those conversations that we get to have unscripted, okay?
In there.
Yes, you getting it raw right now because we can't script this whole rebuilding trust thing, right? So we're going to talk through, there's a series of questions that I have that we're going to talk through in real time. And I'm excited, ladies. So first off, since we're talking about trust and this disappointment, let's start talking about what it was like before disappointment. What did trust in God look like for you before you even were like, oh God, you disappointed me, or I didn't get what I wanted out of this prayer? What did that trust look like before any of that even happened? Please.
So you just asked that question, Lady B, and it immediately I went to my relationship with my father. And I go back to, because I thought of, as you were asking that question, I thought of childlike trust. Like
Yeah.
you think of your children, and they're like, there are bad people in the world. Yes, there are. And you don't, you want to tell them that, but you also want to protect that innocence. And you don't want them living in caution and fear. But it's like, we know as adults, like, no, there are bad people in the world. But they're like, no, the way that you raised me, that's how everybody is raised. And they're all good people. No, they're not. But I think about specifically my relationship with my father and how I would look forward to when my mom would say, oh, your dad is getting you this weekend. And then he didn't show up. Okay. Well, your dad's coming this weekend. Okay. And then he didn't show up. And it eventually got to the point where he didn't show up. He didn't show up. He didn't show up. And then it was like, you don't even have to tell me he's coming. I'm good. Right. It got to that point where the trust was so broken, it was irreparable in a sense, but also knowing, come on, Lord, come through and heal and mend our broken hearts. But I think of that childlike trust and innocence. That's what it looks like and sounds like and feels like to me before the disappointment. And it's like, how many times do you have to be disappointed before it's like, nope, I don't believe you. I no longer trust you. But I think about as a child, we can yell at our babies. They can get that tap, tap, tow, tow, all the things. But eventually it'll get to the point where it's like, there's extreme cases of abuse or whatever it may be. But like otherwise, our children love us unconditionally. We talk about how we're supposed to love them unconditionally. They love us. There are children who have been through some horrible things and they're like, but that's my mama.
Right.
But that's my daddy. And I love him. So that's it for me. That childlike, you can't do no wrong. If my daddy say he gonna be there, he gonna be there. If my Heavenly Father say he gonna be there, he gonna be there. But then, like you said, he ain't show up the way I thought. So I'm now looking like,
Okay.
yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Blaire, on, sharing how that showed up for you in your childhood. And I'm sure a lot of listeners can resonate for sure with that. What about you, Dr. DQ?
My trust in God was like a blind trust. Like I acknowledged the blessings that I had growing up. So I don't feel like I ever really went through anything that required me to test my trust in God, right? We spoke last week about disappointment. I'm like, disappointed in God? Like, what? Never did that thought ever cross my mind. I don't think I really had any experiences like that until I was more of an adult. And again, I wouldn't call it disappointment. So before what I now can call disappointment, before that ever happened, the trust was just like, oh, I know God's going to be there. He's always been there. I never really had any of those life experiences when I was younger that really tested that. So for me, I would say it was all cool. It was all willy-nilly. I was fine. And I don't think that I ever, and don't get me wrong, I was disappointed. There were things that I didn't get. There were experiences that I wanted that I didn't have. So I was not getting everything I wanted and desired, but I was fine. I was like, okay, I'm sad. Yeah. But life goes on. I recognize the other blessings that I have. So that's kind of my take on that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And it helps me actually kind of frame my thought. I agree with you with the blind trust piece. I think that before the disappointment, for me, the religion or my walk and my faith before this disappointment was more of assumed relationship, right? It was like, okay, there's a God, right? There's a God and he's going to bless me with the things that he thinks that I'm deserving of. And I don't remember ever questioning any of those things. And so I think more so, I probably had more those thoughts or going back and forth about trust about Santa Claus than I did about God, honestly. Oh, Santa, if I do this, I'm not going to get a toy, whatever. When we're talking about childhood, because it wasn't for me at that time because we're talking about before the disappointment, right? I didn't have, it was like, okay, this is who God is. God's going to bless me. I just need to continue to be good and to do good. And I believe that. So I did. I fully trusted him. So I just assumed that he will always be there for me no matter what. So shifting a little bit to, we get to this point in our life, right, where there's a disruption, where things begin to shift, right? That some experience has happened in your life and your trust has now shifted. What was that? If you all can recall or think back to what experience shifted that trust in God for you.
Let me tell you, listeners, if you could see my face, because I'm blinking real hard.
Is it real?
Again, it's unscripted, but oh my, I think it would be really hard for me to pinpoint one transitional or one catalyst. I think it's very similar to like our relationships with people where it like builds and it compounds. So I can think of what immediately kind of comes to my mind is maybe like my expectation around what my marriage should look like as far as like my husband caring for me and caring for the family and things of that nature. And it's like, wait a minute, Lord, I did this right. I got married for us. We did the little cord thing, and you the center cord, and we did the braid, jumped over the broom, made this covenant. I don't know did we jump over a broom? I think we jumped over a broom.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know.
You did. Yes,
okay,
you did.
I don't know where that broom is now, but yes, we jumped over all the things. I don't know where that broom is.
I'm gonna need you to go find the broom and
I gotta
cord.
find it.
Go find it.
It's probably packed in a box. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it, listeners. But I think about all of that and it's like, well, why would I be having this level of struggle in my, relationship? Or why is he not fulfilling what the word says the provider, the head of the household is supposed to be? Again, not taking into consideration that being influenced by culture and what, seeing in media and what other people are sharing with me and their opinions and views. But it was probably that part as far as being a mature adult. Because I would say I'm blessed as far as the experiences I've had where it's like, wait a minute, how come this ain't looking like it's supposed to? And I'm praying about it, Lord. And I'm not, what's your timeline? So that probably for me was the thing that shifted my trust, but also allowed me to see that that's when your trust should be increased. That's when I need to lean more heavily on him as opposed to the him that I can see before me, which was my husband. So, but yeah, this is feeling more like a counseling session.
An interrogation, maybe? I don't know, because why Lady
We're
B
not
always do us
ready.
like this?
I tell you.
Every episode, we don't
Yeah.
stop letting her do this to us.
Listen, I read these questions ahead. I was like, ooh, I definitely was reading the questions like, yeah, that's deep right there. Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. DQ, what you got, girl?
Geez, okay. So what experience shifted my trust, my professional journey, and how it connects to my income? This last year has been a roller coaster between finishing school and saying like, hey, look at the economy. These groceries
Baby, this gas, the
whipping
grocery.
my behind, the gas. Okay. So I'm like, you ebb, you flow. But then when I tell y'all hit after hit after hit has happened, I mean from my car burning down to a side hustle no longer coming through to taking my son to the emergency room to us needing a new shower. And I'm like, well, Lord, now you increase my troubles. Well, I'm banking on, I'm calling on the Lord double for my trouble because, baby, this stuff right here, it's shifting my trust, right? And it's putting me in a position where I know I have to depend on him because any other time, sit down, figure stuff out, move some things around, absorb some other opportunities, good to go. And I was relying more on myself and not always going to God. So he said, not this time. I said, yes, sir. So that is what has shifted. And then also, like I mentioned, my career, just really trying to figure out who I am professionally and what my goals are professionally. And getting more confident and more comfortable with stepping outside of this space that I've operated in. And just having the realization like, Dr. DQ, you've been doing this for 2 decades. If you're not the expert, then who is? Like just trying to rely on me and trusting myself to lead in spaces I've never led before. So it all connects because I really sincerely believe that for me to grow into the level of income that I want, I have to be who God says that I am in my profession.
Ooh,
I love that. You have to be who
ooh.
you are. Yes.
She said
I
that with a
l-
strong voice.
and if y'all
Look,
can see her face.
because yes, it's been some devotion these last few days, some prayer, and yeah, like today I worked out, y'all. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. Okay, I worked out, and I was like, I've already overcome this. Like it's done, it is done. So
Girl, I see that trusting in God already working, girl. You
okay,
already.
now I'm gonna just still pray that I don't have to wait fully till 2027, like Dr. Blair said a couple of episodes ago.
Listen, it's a journey and just
God's timing is perfect. I'm just saying,
It
it's
is.
May. Can we just go ahead and
We almost done with this year. It's about halfway.
well, I love what you both have said. And I'm going to just kind of jump on what Dr. Blair was saying about the adulting experience was an experience that shifted my trust, right? So I would have to first start off by saying, well, still acknowledging that I don't feel like I encountered hardships and the situations in life where that gets you to that place where you're like, God, I need you. And for me, and I feel like that's why my faith or my journey, my walk with God wasn't as strong as I would have wanted it much earlier. Um, because I was cruising, right? I was. I was cruising and I would go to church, wake up, pray, do all those things. And I will say my hardships came in marriage. And so I think the experiences that I have already shared, on this podcast of coming to becoming one with another person, sharing financial burden, the highs and lows of having businesses or job loss, insecurity, all of those things that I had never experienced before showed up in full bloom after marriage.
Full bloom.
In full bloom. And I couldn't wrap my head around, God, why? It really did. It left me, I didn't understand why me, God. Those were the questions I asked. Like, why am I going through this? Why is this my experience in my marriage or in my relationship? And where are you, God? Like, don't you hear me? Don't you see him?
You talking to my God like that. Now, hold on now.
that's
We
real?
we
She
be,
told you she was
We
tussling.
wrestling.
Yes, the tussle, the
like, God,
wrestle.
like what? Yes, we wrestle for real. It's definitely a better communication level now, but I had so many questions, right, that shifted my trust. And I'm going to jump into my next question because I'm about to answer it and then you all can jump in too. But when you think about that internal shift, there's something that happens internally where you might decide like you're going to pull back and you're like, this experience you've had with God or this experience that you've had in your life, I need to pull back and God, you're just not the one for me. Some people pull back. Some people just decide to, I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to go over here and isolate myself where some people might question more. I was that person that questioned more. But some of the things that happened internally was that I had to go in prayer. And internally for me, and actually what got me to that point, I can recall going to a church and I was prophesied to by a lady that said something about our marriage and the spirit and something about the house and that it was based on me. I needed to be the one to go into prayer, right? Not him, it was me. And I remember I had this wonderful, amazing encounter with God in the living room while everybody else is asleep. And I'm just on the floor bawling because I just had to approach God one-on-one and just fully surrender. Because again, like, God, whatever, if it is me, then whatever it is, release it, show me, help me. And so that internal shift was was a change, a big change for me in a way to get me to this place where I felt like, okay, I have a relationship with God. I know how to approach him. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the change, right? So that was my experience. And so I'm going to turn it back over to you, Dr. Blaire and Dr. DQ, to share if there were some internal shifts that you all had, maybe where you changed how you prayed, or it was a change in your thought pattern or how you approached God. What was your experience?
But I internally shift and shift back all the time.
That too.
It's it's a seesaw, or I don't know how to describe this thing. But I do know when I do have a shift, it's because it's the fatigue, it's the tiredness. It's like, let me just be free of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be the change. Let me be the catalyst that then, shifts the sphere in the house or in the relationship or whatever it may be. But it can easily become a vicious cycle, though, because if there's another behavior that happens that you thought that you've healed from, or that you thought that you've shared to the point where you have understanding or whatever it is, and that thing pop up again, it's like, well, you about to see the Blaire that you saw 3 months ago that you didn't want to see, that I let go of, but now I'm going to grab that thing back. I'll be grabbing that thing back all the time. Come on, attitude. You ain't far. Just snatch it on right back. So I struggle with this, but it's normally to the point where, and it's a conviction. It's like, it's you, girl. You change the attitude. You change how you move and bring joy back into the space, or laughter or conversation or whatever it is. And then I'm I'm on my journey, y'all.
It's a journey for all of us.
It's a journey.
So I think my shift was before I would kind of talk around God and I actually talk to him. Y'all know when people be like, oh, I'm going to pray for you. And that was the prayer. They don't ask, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'd be like,
Yes.
I'm going to trust the Lord. Well, did I actually talk to God, or am I just talking around God?
Girl,
So
you just
that-
hit on half of the listeners. They was like, ooh,
Okay.
Dr. DQ. That right there.
Yes, I'ma pray for you. That was it. You ain't talking to God. You was talking around him. You was talking about him, but you weren't talking to him. So that has been my shift, is to talk and actually converse with God. Because I think sometimes when I would pray, of course, I'm human, so a lot of times I was asking for stuff, and it wasn't always asking for understanding or asking, like, what do? I was asking for things. And so the shift has been more conversational. God, help me understand. God, order my steps. Lord, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to get out of this situation? But also expressing to him how I'm feeling and not just asking questions either, right? So expressing like, Lord, this is how I feel. Is this right? Help me to process this. Help me to move through this. So I have just shifted in how I communicate with God. I ain't wrestling with him like Lady B, but, I'm not that mature
She the
yet.
heavyweight champion of the world.
She is.
Oh,
It's
yes.
goals. Because I know he wants that relationship with us, but I'm scared.
Yes, man, it's good. This is good. So I love to hear the shift that you all have made, the internal shift and the things that you're working on. My next question is, what feels harder now about trusting God? Is there anything, and maybe you already touched on this. I know Dr. DQ, you mentioned your professional journey a little bit, but
But I wouldn't say that that's hard.
okay,
I
girl,
would
tell me.
say it's enlightening, it's different, I dare say slightly unfamiliar, but not uncomfortable and not hard. So I think that what may be hard, if I had to, categorize something
Or just
as
what you're
being
still
such,
working through.
what I'm working through, being okay in this moment, being okay in this part of the journey. They talk about praising the Lord while you're in the hallway until a door opens, and being okay with the fact that I don't know how long I'm going to be in the hallway. And like, that's fine, and it's I used to be much more stressed about stuff. And now I'm like, well, Lord, it's Tuesday or it's Thursday, it's the 12th, 15th, whatever day it is. Just being like, okay, what's next? What's on Netflix? Just like being more okay and not letting my mind focus on that, not dwelling on that and being in that sad space.
So, and I think that's so good. And I think so many of our listeners struggle with that, right? Being like dwelling on something for a long period of time or, being in that space, whether it's sad or just disappointed or whatever. So, and we've heard your journey. I feel like we've been a part of your journey from
Well, y'all
the
have.
episode one, right? With this one. So how have you got into this place where you're just like, okay,
I'm gonna tell
God.
you. So when we talked about long suffering, at that point it clicked. I was like, oh, I ain't doing nothing wrong. My prayers aren't not working. They're working. It's just supposed to be long suffering. I'm supposed to be here for a minute. So it's my turn. I'm not doing anything or going through anything that other people haven't gone through as far as challenges, as far as trying to figure out their professional career, as far as trying to get an understanding. Because for me, I told y'all episodes ago, wasting time is one of my biggest fears, but I'm not wasting time being on this journey. So I'm just realizing like, duh, Dr. DQ, you asked the Lord to use you. He's using you. That's it. This is you being used. This is you again getting exactly what you prayed for. So deal with it, like it, love it, and let's go.
You get
I
what
love
you
that.
get and you don't throw a fit.
You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Okay, Dr. Blaire, I like that. I haven't heard that.
I think that's something that my kids' teachers probably said to them. No lie. Yes, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. You got this. This is what you got. This is the toy you're going to play with. So keep moving.
That sound like it came. That teacher is a mama. That's exactly what that sound like. That teacher got kids, got children.
I like that. Not children,
Children.
part. I said, I'm still working through a lot of things. All the things, it's the moments of like, well, why am I experiencing something similar to what I've experienced before? And then it's the revelation, like, so I didn't learn what I needed to learn that time. So you had to send me through another corrective journey. And then the frustration around like, well, just tell me what I need to learn, Lord. And then I'll put more effort maybe into learning it. Maybe.
Right.
So I think it's the unknown for me is the, as people say, the words say, faith the size of a mustard seed. I said, oh, maybe needed I needed, when I think about the Dr. Seuss movie, Horton, here's a who. I needed something that small. That's the size of my faith. It's a little bit smaller than a mustard seed sometimes. And then other times it's as big as an elephant. So it just varies and it's just based off of context and past trauma associated with it. So I am struggling with the stuff where it's like, this sounds and feels real familiar. So how did we get back here when I thought I was healed from it, when I thought that we worked through it, when I thought whatever I thought about it. And that's that reciprocal, that's that wrestling maybe. Maybe I do wrestle.
Yes, that's wrestling, going back and forth. And I just want to thank you both for sure, because I know I put y'all on the spot, but I thank you for being open. But I think that, yes, the declarations, the realization that you all have come to and just sharing again, I feel like we are hearing the growth in the journey already just right here, and we can see it and it's evident. And yes, we're wrestling, we question, sometimes we are disappointed. And who is to say that, okay, yes, it's real life. We're human. But again, the biggest thing is not to stay there. So I'm excited, y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Counselor Lady B.
It did feel like a counseling session.
It's all right though. Hopefully it was healing and reflective for our listeners. I think we've shifted to this space of like how this is real for us and how obviously it's actualizing for us. And I think that we've shared that it shows up in what we say, how we move, how we even protect ourselves. And so a lot of us, we will say that I trust God, but our language, that behavior, our body movement tells a totally different story. So I want us to shift to kind of some common things that we've seen, we've heard, that we've said or done ourselves that really allow us to kind of see that I say I trust, but maybe my actions, no, or the words that I'm saying don't necessarily align with what I say that I believe. And so my go-to is that I just don't want to get my hopes up again. Like I've been let down before, or this wasn't God's timing, so I don't want to get excited. I know I prayed for rain, but I'm not going to put that raincoat on because I don't see it in the forecast. So that's an example of like just some of the things that we say. So what are some, ladies, what are things you've said or other things that you heard people say where you like, that ain't mustard seed faith?
Well, for me, I am that person that is like, I'm good. I got it. I can handle it, and not relying on God's strength, right? We're just relying completely and solely on me. I'm capable of doing it and not going to God. But I've also have said I'm trusting God, but preparing for whatever the worst is. Like, girl, oh, God is good. I'm trusting in whatever he does, whatever he says, but let me just get this taken care of. Let me clean this area up here so that he can bless it the right way, the way I need him to bless it.
Not the right way.
The right way.
I think that speaks to just blind faith. I think that we can all reflect on somebody who, I just heard a story actually about a friend who had that blind faith. Or I'm not worried about it because God's going to protect me. God's going to protect. Yes, he is. But you're not going to walk into the middle of the road and it's a green light for oncoming traffic.
Come on.
Or I'm not going to put my family or someone that I love and care about in harm's way because God will protect us. Yes, he will. And right. So that, I feel like we've seen the extremes of people who take these things and it's like, yes, we are supposed to trust him, and he's given us a sound mind. He's given us discernment to be able to say, I don't need to go down that street because I see what they doing. I see what they saying. I see how they acting. I see how they looking. Let me turn left, as opposed to like, let me walk down the street because God got me. You ain't made for these streets. Turn around and get back in your vehicle.
Exactly.
And let God protect you on the way home. It's the little things. It's the little things. What about behavior, ladies? I want y'all to think about like if you shift it, because I know for me, it'll be kind of creating I'm a plan A, B, C, D, E, the whole alphabet. I always have a backup plan, even though I can say like, all right, God, this is what I've been given. This is what I'm supposed to do. But I make up a plan for everything, even what I know God has, that he's got it, that he gave it to me.
The backup plan is real. I saw this TikTok earlier today and the guy said, what if you just stand and believe on plan A?
Who does that? That's why they created a plan B.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, we always have like this backup plan, like, oh, well, this is what I'm praying for, or Lord, guide me. But in the back of your mind, way in the back left corner, you got that backup plan like, this is how I'll fix this if the Lord doesn't work out plan A. Or if I don't hear from God, by the time I need to hear from him, that back left corner, that's the storage unit. I got my plan back up in there.
Exactly. I think the behavior piece, Dr. Blaire, that you're speaking of is something I really resonate with. And I feel like I really need to fix it because it's one of those things when I think about not asking for help, even when I need help. That is one of the behaviors where I'm not trusting in the help that he could be providing for me
through
that
people.
He might have sent someone to help me, to cover me, to pray for me. And I'm still like, I'm good. Somebody could be like, sis, you want me to pray for you? It's okay. Thank you. And it
now hold on a minute. Because when people ask to pray for you, you got to say, what God you serve, what you praying for.
Yeah, true. You do need to know.
Do you
all
know
those
these people, Lady B? If you know them, then all right. But
that was just an example.
Okay.
But I'm just saying
Spirit of
that
discernment. Who your God?
please, listeners, have discernment when somebody's asking for
Yes.
prayer. Typically, yes, people who have prayed over me, yes, I know them and I have allowed them. So, but I definitely have turned away help, right? And I don't know, God could have sent those people to help me, but I'm one of those people who just try to do everything on our own.
I'm glad you realized that.
Yeah, this podcast helped me to realize that.
Girl, bow. I know we done tried to tell you for years.
Okay. I have known this, but it has been like very vocal multiple times. Now everyone knows who's listening that I have a problem. So
Real.
it is woo, yeah, vulnerable. It's out there. I know now. I got it.
Well, you saying and sharing, thank you, Lady B. I think about people who stay guarded in relationships and then call it discernment. They're like, I'm just protect. And we talked about this in past episodes, right? And that is a way that a behavior shows up that we're not trusting in him because and in later episodes we'll definitely talk about friendships and discernment in those spaces, but we talked about how the word says that we are supposed to have community, that we're supposed, I know we said hashtag no new friends. That used to be my whole, and I've had to shift that because I don't know what is the calling on people's lives to be an intercessor for me or to be a helpmate to me or to just be whatever God has called them. So I'm blocking my blessing and their calling and their, whatever they're being convicted to do by saying hashtag no new friends or like, I feel an energy. And some of that's real. Because let me tell you how the spirit could be like, that one's not for you. And we'll ignore that. But some of us use it as a mechanism to kind of hold on to past hurt and for it to be self-protection in a sense, as opposed to having complete trust in him. I think that's also a really good segue into how we hold on to hurt, right? Rebuilding trust is hard when we haven't released what has hurt us. Healing can only take place when you feel safe.
Yeah.
So one of these lovely ladies made mention a few episodes ago that we can't heal if we're not in a space of safety. I have to feel safe first. So we hold on to this hurt, and it's hard for us to rebuild trust when we haven't released that pain. If we're still in the midst of that long suffering, if we don't feel safe, right? Trust and safety they linked up. So I want to acknowledge a hard truth for us. How we experience people often shapes how we relate to God. We think about the hurt that people have done unto us or the things that they've said to us and done to us. And then we think that our relationship with God is the same way. It's like, well, God didn't show up then. And so I don't really know if I can trust him now. So if people are inconsistent, we expect God to be unpredictable and inconsistent too. If people let us down, then we brace for God to do the same thing. And it creates this unfortunate, right, vicious cycle of broken trust now means that I can't rely on you the same way. Now I need to have that control. Now I can't have complete surrender. And that really shows up as far as culture is concerned.
Well, Dr. Blaire, I mean, you brought it to this point. Let's just talk about real world, what culture gets wrong when it comes to those conversations about trusting God and healing and that vulnerability. Because I think when we expose ourselves, and we're all being very transparent here, when we expose ourselves, that is us kind of ripping the Band-Aid off of what society has taught us and what that culture has taught us. So of course, culture and sometimes our beloved churches have gotten some stuff wrong. And I use the word wrong very loosely because it was all well intentioned, right? Just maybe misinterpreted or even misunderstood. But we just kind of have this sense culturally that trust means certainty, and it doesn't. How many of us trust our family and they still let us down? You don't trust them less. but it doesn't mean certainty. And strong faith doesn't question. Are you kidding me? It's okay to have faith, and it's a strong faith, like Lady B, and we just still gonna question and wrestle with the Lord. She is. I ain't there yet. She is. I trust her though. That's my girl. And sometimes what society gets wrong is that once you trust God, you shouldn't struggle again. And I can't tell y'all how much I wish that were true. But if you think about it, if it were true, everybody would trust God. If it was as simple as trusting God and never struggling again, there would be many, many, many more Christians, many more people of faith, many more people that are rooted in the love of Jesus. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that aren't. Okay, so us trusting God, we're going to struggle again, but with Him, we know how to get through it and we know we can get through it. And sometimes culture leads us to believe that disappointment means that something is wrong with us spiritually, and it's not. Y'all, this is all encompassing of that long suffering that we're supposed to go through. If Jesus can carry His cross and be pierced by nails, y'all, we can deal with this long suffering for a little while longer.
Okay.
We can. Cause I don't want no nails. No, thank you. I will take my current season any day over being crucified. So what God is inviting instead, He's inviting us to trust and be in a rooted relationship, being focused on that relationship and not just focus on the outcomes. He's inviting us to have faith that can hold tension. Okay. He's inviting us to honesty instead of performance, that transparency and that vulnerability with Him. And He's also inviting us to stay connected, even when those things don't make sense. So stay connected. Talk to God, not around God. Trusting God has never been about having all of the answers. It's about staying in that relationship even when we don't want to. Y'all, we spoke about that devotion. Something didn't work out the way you wanted it to, and you just praying just to pray, just to check it off of that to-do list instead of really digging deep and having that honest connection with Him. And scripture has shown us people who trusted God, but still wrestled with God. Okay, so trust, do not get it confused. Trust is not the absence of questions. It's the decision not to walk away because of those questions. So as you guys are listening and processing and reflecting, we absolutely invite you to rebuild that trust. Okay. It doesn't mean that you have to feel confident right away. It doesn't mean that you have to ignore what happened. We're not asking you to be oblivious or to erase your memory. We don't want you to rush your healing. Instead, you're just willing to stay. It might mean that you go slower. It might mean that you go differently or you move differently. And it might not be what you're used to, but we promise y'all it's okay. It is all right.
It is okay, and you will be all right. That's right. And that's why we have this community just to be here to support one another. And thank you, Dr. DQ, for just reframing that for us. So, listeners, we know you might be in some different places and spaces and maybe not even quite sure how you feel right now about this episode. And you might have to do some reflection, right, on where you were before this disappointment with God or where your trust is right now with God. Some of you still believe, but your faith feels quieter. There's others that might be more cautious with their expectations that you have, or you don't pray the same way anymore, right? You've had some experiences that have changed the way that you talk to God, that have changed the way that you pray or the questions that you ask. So you're not as quick to say, God will do it. You're trying to trust, but it still feels unfamiliar. Or even you might be in the place where you're saying, I don't think I lost faith. I just don't relate the same way anymore. So let's name this. Let's call it what it is. You are not regressing. You're not slowing down. You're not turning back. You are recalibrating. We are redoing this all over again. You are re-downloading new information. And it takes time. Trust is being rebuilt, not being removed. And it does take time.
So we want to just have an invitation for y'all to just reflect and to ask yourself some questions. Think about what version of trust you're trying to hold on to that just really no longer fits your relationship right now with God. He may be asking you for elephant-sized trust and not that mustard seed. Think about where you're being invited to stay instead of withdrawing. Oftentimes we just want to run, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right? Stay in your long suffering right now. Stay in your wrestle and your tussle with God and have those conversations with him that you've been reluctant to have. Say to him, get on Lady B's level and say to him, God, I'm disappointed because you didn't show up the way that I really wanted you to, the way I expected you to. Dare say it the way I needed you to, because recognizing, his plan is perfect. So he going to show up the way that you need it. But say that to him. And get on the floor and give him honor and worship him and praise him and see what shifts takes place. If you are the journaling type, or if you are the type that will share this with a friend and say, girl, we going to answer these YesWork questions. What changed in your trust after disappointment? And what does that really reveal about you, about God, about your relationships? Are you trying to control outcomes, or are you trying to deepen relationships? Are you looking for transactional or transformational? Because our God is transformational. It ain't gonna be no quid pro quo. What does trust look like for me right now? Not in theory, but in actual practice. So your yes this week, it may be having an honest conversation with God. I think we ask y'all every week to just be honest with him. Just try it. Just try it. It will shift. You will say, that's why people be like, Jesus, my homeboy. That's why people be like, I wake up talking about, good morning, Jesus. Like, they have a different dynamic and relationship with him when they can be honest. Yes. When you can, as Dr. DQ said a couple of weeks ago, when you can eat that cheeseburger and smash in front of him, and you know he's not going to judge you because you're hungry. You can put your bonnet on in front of God. Y'all, you better go back to the last episode, listener. If you would like, what is she talking about? Go back and listen. Stay present instead of pulling back. Release the need to understand everything and choose connection over control. That can be your yes for this week.
You know what that just made me think about? Because when we were children, we had our imaginary friends. And I don't know, to all the parents out there, you have your kids and they have these imaginary friends. And it's like, no, he's right here. I'm feeding my best friend. Y'all don't see nothing. Y'all need to talk to God and believe in God the way that our kids, our babies believe in those imaginary friends. They're besties, okay? Like, we need to have that same level of, no, he's right here, because he is. Or I can talk to him.
Jesus be your snuffleupagus, because snuffleupagus was Big Bird's imaginary friend. People don't know that. Y'all better look it up. Yes, snuffleupagus was Big Bird's imaginary friend. Let Jesus be your snuffleupagus.
Hashtag.
Who knew?
We got to make that a hashtag.
Yeah, that's for sure. You taught me something new.
Jesus is my snuffleupagus. How many letters? We make t-shirts, they don't charge by the letter. But seriously, y'all know we like to tell a little jokey joke. But honestly, the way that our children believe in their imaginary best friends, we need to believe in Jesus. He is our best friend. God is with us. He's not going to leave us. We're going to talk to him. He riding shotgun in the car with us. He's always there, and we need to roll with that and lean into it. So y'all, if this conversation, if any part of it hit close to home, again, y'all, you're not alone. We're here. Reach out. Connect with us. We absolutely want you to rebuild that trust with God, because this is not something that we talk about enough. We do our best on this podcast to make walking in faith, while being professional, while being women, while being Black women, we try to really put language around that. And that requires a certain level of vulnerability from us. And we invite you to have that vulnerability as well, because that is where you'll see that growth. So many of us are in this journey where we are building or rebuilding trust with God. If you're new to the Lord, welcome. But we are also learning how to stay without pretending, learning how to trust without having all the answers as much as we want them. If you're type A, you know what I'm talking about.
Hey.
Okay. And we are learning how to be in a relationship with God honestly. So if this episode helped you in any way, you are able to put language to where you are, absolutely share it with someone who's navigating this too. And if the space has been meaningful for you, make sure that you follow, rate, and review the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. We are building something real, something honest, and something transparent, and it is going to lead to our growth in Jesus. And we thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for doing the yes work. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Hey, y'all.